After over 25 years of marriage, we've learned that successful couples have great friendships, put each other first, and focus on light just as much as love. We believe marriage should be fun and easy.
Our goal is to share our journey with the hopes of helping others build strong, happy relationships. Join us as we continue to create our lives beyond I do. Before we get into our episode, we want to share this disclaimer. We are not marriage counselors, nor are we mental health professionals. We simply want to share with you what has worked in our marriage. Now, on to our episode.
Hey y'all, I'm Byron.
And I'm Margaret, and we'd like to welcome you back to the Beyond I Do podcast.
On this episode, we will discuss how to find balance between work life and marriage. Our main resource is an article called How to Achieve Work-Life Balance in a Marriage Relationship by Dr. David Anu.
Dr. Anu states that a successful relationship is one in which both people can balance work and family life. Doing that can be challenging, but there are a few things that you can do to make working towards a balanced life easier. Set realistic goals, stay organized, prioritize your goals, and communicate with your partner. Work-life balance is the ability to have a healthy and balanced relationship between your professional and personal life. It means having time to do the things you enjoy outside of work or to be with the people who matter to you most.
That's deep right there. All right, so why is work-life balance important in your life and marriage? Because it is. That's the reality of life.
Yep.
You spend, and you know, I think people don't realize a lot of times as far as work, whether you work from home or go to a job, on a daily basis you spend more time at work than you do with your family, with your spouse, your parent, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, you only get, during work days, you only get a short amount of time with your spouse, kids. So that work day is typically, it's really a work day.
Right. And the importance of which is that you're working, but you're working to take care of your family.
Yep.
So you want to make sure that work is not in vain. You want to make sure that, you know, your family realizes that I'm doing this, but I'm doing this because I have to take care of us and to make sure we have the lifestyle that we would like to live.
Yep.
So some signs that you may need to work on your work-life balance.
Okay.
Just keep in mind that if you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed out, and burned out with your work, that's a sign that maybe some things need to change.
Yeah.
You're fatigued, you have low energy levels at home, you may have low job satisfaction, your partner complains about your work pattern, and then as a result, you end up in a position to where your marriage is on the line. And that's what you want to avoid. So you want to look for those signs so that you can start working to correct them.
All that, you know, just basically saying, hey, you got to find the time. You know, we know work is important because you have to pay the bills, you have to take care of the family. And I mean, there's other activities that come up. You know, if you have small children, you may have after school activities. They may be in basketball, they may be in soccer,
band, scouts.
You know, you have recitals you have to go to. So, you know, just trying to find that balance. And I know for us it was difficult sometimes because the way that I worked, I missed a lot, you know, as far as like, I wasn't able to make everything because some nights I had to work, so that was a sacrifice, and the kids just had to, they learned to understand that, you know, Daddy wasn't gonna make everything.
I think that it's interesting whenever we have this conversation, you focus on that part, but the flip side of that is your schedule allowed you to be there at other times when I couldn't, or it would have been more of a work, more work for me to not be there. for those of you who teach, you understand that not being at school and preparing for a sub is more work than when you're there. And so just the, preparing to not be there is a lot of stress for me. And so with your schedule, that allowed you to, alleviate some of the stress for that. And I think it also let the kids get to see, it's one thing when mom shows up at school for school events.
Yeah.
But I think it's neat for kids when a dad shows up during those times also.
Yeah,
So the kids had some experiences that maybe their friends or their peers weren't necessarily used to having. So
Yeah.
anyways, I just, I try to toot your horn whenever possible.
Oh, thank you, dear. Thank you, dear.
Anytime.
I received the tooting.
All right, so what are some tips for achieving that work-life balance within a marriage?
All right. Now, one thing to do is set boundaries around your work and stick with them. You can start by setting limits or how long you will be working. If you work from home, you can say, I would think the perfect thing if all the kids are in school, you work during those times. You know what I'm saying? If it's feasible. If it's feasible. Sometimes you might have an evening job and you may have to do certain things. So you may want to just blot out some time and say, okay, well, I'll dedicate, 2-3 hours or an hour or two. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or sporadically throughout the day. Something like that. Definitely work smart. Try to avoid unnecessary distractions. Distraction for me would be having the TV on.
Yes, it would be.
Because I start looking at stuff and, damn, there it is. And also try not to bring work home. That's difficult, but, depending on your career, your job, your demand, try not to bring it home as much as possible, but sometimes you have to. And if you do, I would say just try to, maybe set a clock and just say, okay, I'm going to work, an hour, hour and a half, and then I'm done. Just set a timer.
Once again, as an educator, that's almost impossible. If I don't bring work home, that means I'm going to be staying.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing that I cut out several years ago is that when it's time to leave, I leave, because oftentimes, especially if you're working nights, the time that I get home from work and the time before you leave for work, that's the only time we get to see each other sometimes.
Right, exactly.
So I learned early on that when it's time to leave, I leave. Now, the sacrifice in that is there have been times when once you go to work, I'm working for hours trying to get things done. But I have gotten to a point now where I try to maximize my time at school, my planning time. But I also, at home, I designate a specific, what day do I do my work on?
Monday?
No.
Tuesday?
No.
Wednesday?
No.
No, I'm just playing. Saturday?
No.
Sunday, yeah.
Think about it. It's Saturday now.
Well, I mean, I know we've altered because of, if I had something to do, like if I'm off.
Well, if you're up,
you know what I'm saying? So we
right. If you were working on
I might be like,
something,
well, I got to work on the car, and they're coming Sunday, so I'm gonna do that Sunday, and you'll be like, well, okay.
You just made it seem like we just met each other.
I mean, I'm just explaining this for the people.
You make it seem like
that don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe I need to do a better.
For our new listeners that don't know us.
Maybe I need to do a better job with my work-life balance because.
Anyway.
I wait on.
Of course.
I wait till Sundays to do the bulk of my planning. Unless, like you said, like if you have a car to work on a Saturday, I'll take that time and I'll do it.
An engagement we have to go to or something like that. We're
right.
trying to, make an adjustment. But it's definitely the weekend.
During the week, I try not to do much unless you're working nights. I try to maximize that time and respect our time.
It ain't nothing for us to be sitting here during the week. You be at the table. I get on my iPad, work on some music or work on something and pop on some TV, So I mean, it doesn't bother me that you have to do these things. I know we want to spend the time together, but you know, it's all doing what we have to do. So, I mean, but we do create a good balance. I think.
I think so.
I'm not. I ain't complaining. I mean,
You never do.
I mean, shit. We just chill out later. You know what I'm saying? And then when
Now
you get done, you turn the light off, you come over here, and we might watch, you know, a 45 minutes of murder. You know what I'm saying? Our little crime shows or whatever sitcom that's hot that I'm looking at this point in time. Is that delivery? They delivering my dang packages. Hallelujah. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Sidebar. Anyway.
So anywho, now I will admit there were times, especially early in my teaching career, that I would be up all times of night.
Yeah.
And I think even that was me trying to have balance because the kids were younger, they were involved in things, so we would have to go to practices or games, and then I'd come home and work on stuff. But there were times where, you know, it'd be nothing for me to be up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it was. I remember at this one particular time, back in 2010, 2011, somewhere in that area, we had a house guest at the time, and they had things going on. We had things going on with the kids. So I remember a couple of times going to sleep and, like, you know, opening my eyes at 4 o'clock in the morning or 4:30 in the morning. Don't even see her in the bed. I could come downstairs and you still sitting at the table. Like, God, dog, you been up all night?
Yep.
But, you know, too, you were doing that, you were teaching online also.
Yeah.
And it was a lot. It was a crazy time during those times, but, you know, that was a learning curve too.
We were also younger, and I had the energy and the mental stamina to do all of that.
Stay up all day.
Right.
And then, because even like with me, even then I used to, when I would work my last midnight shift.
Yep.
And then I would get off that morning and I would stay up all day.
You would. And you would be okay, but now,
cranky I was.
Well, that's now. Now when you don't sleep, it's horrible, and I don't like it.
It ain't horrible.
No, it is. It is. That's when you get sassy on us.
Y'all know how, like, when you know, when you have behaviors and you don't see it, but everybody else see it, but you don't.
Yeah.
I think that's what that is. I don't be seeing it.
You get very sassy during those times.
Oh, I get sassy. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so another tip to make sure that you are achieving work-life balance is to discuss your goals with your spouse early on in your relationship. And I think that this is one of those things that for young couples who are starting out or for newlyweds, this is important. Unfortunately for us and the way that our relationship started and evolved, you know, these are things that we've learned along the ways and we've had to make adjustments. But if you can early in your marriage discuss with your spouse, you know, what type of limits you're going to set and boundaries you're going to put in place when it comes to work and when it comes to home, that's important. I'm just thankful that you and I have the foundation of friendship there, so that if problems do come up or when problems did come up, we were able to sit down and talk about those things and make adjustments.
I don't recall. I mean, it wasn't much of a discussion because we were always just thrown in different situations. Because, you know, I've had jobs that, you know, laid off or for whatever reason, you know, moved. The company was moving. They weren't even paying me enough to relocate or anything like that. So, you know, went through a spout of that. So it wasn't much to really discuss. It was just making adjustments for those times. So I think this more so applies for people who are professionals, like both professionals.
Well, but, also things like with me, when it comes to staying after school late for things.
Yeah.
Or even with that, there are things that I have been, depending on the school, depending on the age level, things that I've been required to do that you couldn't necessarily be there.
Yeah.
Versus if there were sporting events, games, or things that you could attend, then
Right.
our compromise would be we would go to those things together.
Yeah.
There have been dances that we attended together because I had to be there to chaperone, but that was, you know, you were off or whatever, so
Yeah.
you would come along. So just those types of things that we've kind of along the way, we've made adjustments. Those are
And
things that
there's also been some times where I've had to negotiate some time with coworkers. Like, hey man, you know, especially job I work now, you know, like, hey man, you know, my child has a, you know, game I like to go to, so I might be, you know, late. And we swap out some time or whatever. So I've had to do that, you know, overtime, and had to pay the favor back to them because they had things to do also, you know. All right. The next tip is to set realistic expectations. Don't expect your relationship to function without effort while both couples work full time and raise kids simultaneously. It will take time and require compromise. That means don't forget each other, you know.
but also to keep in mind that there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So if somebody slips, if somebody forgets, or if somebody has to do something that's outside of the normal routine, to not get upset and whatnot. So
I know, you know, we had a lot of, even though we were busy throughout the night, we would have our time once the kids were in bed, that it was just me and you, whether if it was just sitting up, no work involved.
You're skipping to one of them.
Oh, I am?
Yes.
Okay.
See, that's what happens when you don't look ahead.
Oh, okay. All right.
Before we get to that one, communicate openly and honestly about your feelings.
Okay.
So one thing, we can't, and I think this is important for, we've talked to our kids about these things. Our kids have come up in a time where they have access to so much and they see so much, and people will curate these lives and put out there. And so our kids think that they're supposed to be happy with every aspect of their job, with every aspect of their life, and it's just not realistic.
Yep.
Even people who are doing what they want to do, even celebrities, they have parts of their career that they have to do, but they don't want to.
Right.
They don't particularly like that part. And so we've tried to stress that to them. But when it comes to, you know, just regular people, day-to-day struggles with your job, we may not like some of the scheduling things and some of the things that you miss, but we have to be open and honest about, okay, this is how I feel about it, but there's nothing we can do, so we just compromise, we keep going.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday I was a big girl and I went to a game that was an away game. So it was my school playing another school. It was an away game, and I was excited about going until I realized that you were going to work, and I had promised one of my students that I was going to come, so I couldn't back out.
Yeah.
And so I had to be a big girl and go by myself.
And you did it.
And I did it. And I was disappointed, but I couldn't get mad at you for your work schedule, you know? Yeah. So just to be open and honest about those feelings and the day-to-day struggles. When the kids were younger, there were times when you had to take one kid to one place, I had to take one kid to another, and that wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
But we had to do what was necessary to make it work.
Right.
And then we discussed those frustrations with each other, and then we keep moving.
Yep.
So now, the next tip.
All right. Yeah, I jumped ahead of the gun, but you know, that's what I do. Make time to spend with your spouse. If you put in the effort to carve out time for your spouse, they will appreciate you. So there again, like I was saying before, you know, setting out that time, even if it's an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, whatever it is, before you go to bed, and just talk about the day. You know, talk about, you know, well, hey, I got this tomorrow, that tomorrow. You know, I think I would, especially if I was off, I would ask you, you know, if anything you need me to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whatever, or if I had certain things to do. And
your honey-do list.
Yeah, a little honey-do list. or if I was working on a project, or if I had a car to work on, you might be like, well, don't forget, one of the kids has an appointment, or whatever, and I just had to kind of fit things in. I think the key is, we discussed those things and we planned them.
Yeah.
And that didn't mean they all executed 100%.
You're doing it
effectively.
again. You're skipping ahead again.
I'm skipping again. No.
We're supposed to be on making time for your spouse, and you went right into the next one.
I did.
You did.
Well, that's what we do. That's part of it.
So, with the making time with your spouse.
Okay.
Back to, like you said, prior to when we got to it.
Mm-hmm.
Our time, especially when the kids were young, was in bed. Once they're in bed, and we could sit there and we could talk, we could laugh, and we still do that. That's still kind of like our time.
Mm-hmm.
But the next boundary to set would be to avoid conflicts as much as possible, and that's kind of where you were going. Things sometimes get to, and we've learned and we've talked about it through different episodes and different situations where we just had to learn to agree to disagree about certain things. Neither one of us like conflict.
Yeah.
And whereas I can be more explosive quicker, you have a slow fuse.
Yep.
And you can get to that point, and we don't want to.
You're gasoline in a match, and I'm kerosene or diesel fuel in the match.
We're going back to cars.
Well, I'm just saying, most people know that, when you lighten off diesel fuel, it takes a little bit. It'll eventually catch fire, but it's gonna take longer. Whereas gasoline is
just instant.
Yep.
Well, that would be me. But we try to avoid conflicts by having those uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
By letting each other know, look, I didn't like that, or I need for you to do this because this is starting to get to me. And so we want to avoid conflict as much as possible, because first of all, you don't ever want work to be like a comfort. Yeah. Like, you don't want to have the desire to be at work because it means you're not at home. Then that's an issue. You want home to be your comfortable, safe place. So you want to make sure to avoid conflicts, fix those disagreements, and sometimes that just means you agree to disagree.
I tell you, what my job is, there's all types of different relationships and people that I work with on a continuum basis. So it's like, you hear the conflicts that other people have. And I'm hearing guys on the phone with their wives, fussing or cussing at them about some of the simpler stuff.
Gasoline.
Like, thank you. Yeah, they the gas, I'm like, God, thank you, I ain't got to go through all that, the simple stuff like, I done worked all night and I can't get my lady to go to the store. She want me to go to the store when I get off. Like, okay, well, that's, I don't know, what do you say? It's like, okay. But I know one thing that I just wanted to, when we wrote this episode, we were supposed to do this months ago. And I was on the outage. And where is, on the outage, we'll work 12-hour shifts straight. It might be 15 days, it might be 20 days. And, was I on days this particular time? Yeah, I was on days this time. I know previously I was on nights.
I hate that.
And I know those, 6 to 6, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., or 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. But, those nights times are where it seems like it was just the loneliest times. Especially, when you were working and the kids were in school, because it's like I wouldn't see you guys, or I wouldn't have much time. But on day shift, it was better this time, but it was still like a little stressful. So times like that, you can get a little touchy, you can get a little antsy, you can't get a little attitude about things, and you try your best to not snap. But we're all human. You're tired. You're not getting enough sleep as it is, and then you have them dealing with the workday or whatever they had going on, and it's easy to bring some of that stuff home, even from my field. And so I just want to encourage people, to just think about these things on your ride home from work. I try to just put my mind off of work, especially when I'm working like that, whether it be music, listen to a good podcast, and try to come on with at least a better attitude, because working like that day in and day out, 20 days you're just tired. It's like, and you'll ask me what's wrong, babe. I'm just tired. I can't, I can't give off any positive light or energy right now. And I try to do the best I can, but it's just a tumultuous time. But that's part of the job, and it is what it is. So I just encourage people to just try to just exhale, blow it out, get you a drink if you do sip, and just relax, because that's just a part of life, and we all go through it.
And the flip side of that would be, I try to make things as easy as possible for you on this end.
You do.
So even if I don't have dinner prepared, I have the dinner that someone else prepared ready.
Yep.
Yep. Even if things are not spick and span clean, I have things moved out of the way so that you have a clear path to to the couch. I try to make sure that things are as comfortable as possible for you, so that you do have a time and space to decompress. Because once you get home, it's already evening time.
Yeah.
And there's only a few hours that you'll be awake because you get up so early. So I try to make sure that I'm doing my part to help you maximize your comfort and rest when you get home.
Likewise, when you have your work days and you're having to do stuff at home, I'm not bothering you like, dang, babe, we were supposed to do such and such,
Yeah.
It's just having the understanding that, both of us are under whatever amount of pressure that we have to perform, may have a bad day. And being just, I can come on and tell you about my day, you come on and tell me about your day, and it's, ain't no, I don't want to hear that,
Right.
It's just.
Or I had a bad day too.
Yeah. Well, I had a bad day too. Why you telling me about your day? It's like, nah, that's just a part of life, and we help support each other. You support each other by listening to each other.
Right.
That's the main thing, I think. Just listen to each other. And I hear, like I said, I work with some guys and some girls, some females, women that complain about their spouses and they don't listen. I'm like, man, just thank God I don't have to deal with none of that, boy. So, baby, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so that wraps up our boundaries.
Yep.
To make sure that you are putting forth effort to have healthy work-life balance.
And like everything else in a relationship, the big C, communication is key in making sure you are balancing your work life and your marriage. Is that good?
Very good.
All right. Baby, we need to talk.
Huh?
Now, let's discuss it.
All right, our let's discuss it topic is something that we've addressed before. We've seen some things on social media. We wanted to revisit these topics. So both of us are in this marriage group on Facebook. And I say marriage group, it's loosely. There are also single people, divorced people in the group. And I think there are some people who are just there to stir the pot. And there were a couple of posts that kind of got me a little bit. I had the desire to go on my soapbox, so I made a post, and basically I said that a husband who pays the bills while still being a butthole is not a flex. Just because you pay all of the bills, but you're not a likable person, that's not a good thing. That there's so much more to being a good husband.
Right.
And then I basically ended it with, if you want a loving, physically and mentally stimulating marriage, figure out what works for you and your spouse, F everything else. And of course that didn't go over too well with some people. I think some people read, one or two lines and not the whole thing. And there were comments about it is a flex to pay all of the bills. There were comments about not having separate accounts and having shared bank accounts. There were all types of things that people kind of picked out and hit on. So we wanted to discuss some of those things for our Let's Discuss It.
Okay. This is that tired ass 50-50. I'm so tired of seeing this mess. God, dog it.
I guess
I have to realize that, there are new couples joining in matrimonial, whatever, relationships every year, every month. So, they're new to this thing. But this 50-50 stuff is just like really gotten out of hand. And it's like, it's the same. It's like people just want to, I think they just use it to stir up the pot, so to speak. I ain't got nothing to talk about, so let me talk about 50-50. Let me make something up about it.
I think that, too, I don't even understand the concept of being in a household and not, like, what does that mean? Does that literally mean that they sit and look at the bills and say, okay, the power bill is $250, so you give me $125?
Right.
I don't know what that means. But at the very base of everything, I just feel like if I don't have access to all of your bank accounts, if you don't have access to all of my bank accounts, that opens up the door for trust issues.
Right.
So up until a few months ago, we had one main checking account that we used for everything. And we decided to open we had another checking account that was open that we didn't use. And so we decided to use that one for my check to go into and keep the old one for yours to see if we could get some balance with some things.
Yeah.
Now, in that, it's not my money goes here and your money goes there. It's now we have two separate checking accounts that both of us use. It's just that my check is deposited in one, yours is deposited in the other. But our names are on both accounts and we have equal access to. So even in that, there are some bills that come out of one, there are some bills that come out of the other. So even in that, the idea of 50-50 doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but it just hit me, because a lot of people, when you go off to college and if you're in a dorm, that's one thing. Pretty much most of your stuff is paid for, but in the later college years, you move off of campus or whatnot, and you're in an apartment. You have roommates,
right?
And that is the setup you get used to. So even though, let's say a couple meets each other in college, they've had roommates throughout that time, and they decide that they're going to get married or whatever, and they move in together, then, they're looking at, okay, well, it's the same mindset. We split things down the middle. That's what most times they was agree on because it's easy for them. But then it's hard for people to separate that roommate situation from now you're married.
Right.
And now it's all in. You know what I'm saying? Now,
think
that means that when you're married, then there's no hiding your income.
Right.
There's no hiding your pay stub and all that stuff. And people continue that roommate mindset, and that causes the issues. it shouldn't matter. Like, I don't count what I pay and what you pay. It's just,
Right.
Yeah, the bill need to be damn paid. Let's pay the damn thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get the, and it's not a come up. Dudes be like, well, I pay all the, that's what you supposed. It's like taking care of your kids. It's like dudes who want credit for
what you supposed to do.
What you supposed to do. You supposed to take care of your kids. Why you want credit for? I take care of mine. So every other dude out there is taking care of this. So every other dude is out there working to take care of his family. So it's not a flex for you to say, well, I pay all the bills, she stay home. That's nothing. Because there have been times that your income has been higher than mine.
Right.
For whatever period, whether it was a layoff or what it was. Times I didn't have any income. You had the income. So, I mean, it's just about making adjustments to say, okay, you know what? We are one force and we're together.
Yep.
And we need to do whatever it takes. But
one band, one sound.
That's right. Because at the end of the day, you can go into it and you can be like, well, she ain't paying her half for the power bill. Georgia Power
but you gonna cut the lights
Dominion
off.
Don't give a damn about.
You go.
She
make
ain't
me
pay
turn
her
off
half.
the lamp. You can't. You turn that lamp off.
Yeah, turn the lamp on. You can't use no power this month because you ain't paid no bill. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't get it.
I think that one thing that helped our collective mindset, and I say that, but I can't speak for you. I'll speak for myself. Was the times that I didn't work. Because I always struggled with the idea of not contributing, or this is your money that I have my hands on. And you reassured me throughout. But I think that because of that, the idea of hours was solidified. So that when I did start to make income and decent income, then it was already set that this is ours and we have access to it. I think that one thing we've talked about a little bit, we talked about the expectations going into a relationship.
Yeah.
And how sometimes your expectations don't match the reality and that throws everything off. But also just the societal pressures of what should and shouldn't be. And that's why I ended that post with figure out what works for you and your partner, and F everything else, because in the end, it doesn't matter if another person agrees or understands with what we do or understands what we do, as long as you and I are on one accord and we're happy.
Right.
And I feel like even doing this podcast, and it's almost counterintuitive to doing the podcast, because we're telling people what we've done and how we've done things, and this has given us the ability to have a happy, healthy relationship. But at the same time, if it doesn't work for you, if what we're saying doesn't work for you, don't do it.
Yeah.
Talk to your partner and do what works with your partner. That's what's most important. And understand when you do that, it doesn't matter if 10 people tell you to do X. When you do X, at least one of those 10 people is going to criticize it. So it doesn't matter what it is or how you do it. The important thing is that you and your partner, okay, we know we're going to get opposition to this, but you and I made this decision, and we're just going to ride it out regardless of how it ends.
Right. And you know what? Another thing that came to my mind, too, is a lot of times, we often simulate the situation we're raised in most cases. And, I had my mother and father, they always had one bank account. That's what I saw. But I had to realize that a lot of these people, I ain't gonna say everybody, but some people either come from single parent homes or families that were together, mom and dad were together, but they didn't discuss finances around the kids. They just knew that, when we wanted something, it was there, or either it wasn't there. So having that mindset of coming in and saying that, well, I do this and you do that, some of that is new to some of these people. So they don't get it. Like, what is healthy. And if you hadn't seen healthy, you don't know what healthy is. But I mean, this big debate about, you know, who should be paying what, and a lot of times I think people, I'm going off in a tangent, but some people don't even think about, you know, okay, you might see things this way. Like, there's some women who want the husband to pay for everything. Okay, that's cool if you want that. But realize, depending on your husband's personality, if he's the type that's going to lord,
Right.
I take care of you over you,
Right.
then you're going to be in a bad situation regardless. Yeah, you getting your bills paid, but he's treating you like crap.
Right.
He expects his dinner to be ready all
Right.
the time. Or he's not going to be there all the time because he's paying your bills. You don't have that time with that man being there, so your quality time is gonna be less. You know, if he's the 6-figure guy or whatever, and he's having to work 60 hours, 70 hours a week, well, there's no time to be home with you, cuddled up watching TV. And if you do, he's tired.
Right.
And then depending on the lifestyle you guys have, if you guys are both social, your weekends is trying to entertain other people. So I think a lot of times people look at other people's lives and they become envious. Like, oh, I want what she had. Well, I don't want to have to work. But you know, you don't know what that person is going through. My daddy told me a long time ago, son, if you want what somebody has, you have to do what they did to get it.
Right.
You have to be willing to do that.
Right.
So if you're willing to take whatever mental abuse or whatever, I'm not saying that that's what all guys are doing, but I'm just using that as an example. You know, if she's getting treated bad, but yeah, she can go buy a bag anytime
Right.
she want, is that good?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Depends on the bag. Just kidding. Just kidding.
So you think an Hermes bag is worth getting called a nappy-headed hoe all the time?
Well, I mean, for me, it wouldn't bother me as much because,
Okay.
you know, I can dissociate from all of that
Okay.
and just look at my nice, pretty bag. However, that's not what I value.
Okay.
I value quality time.
That's right.
But I understand what you're saying, and I mean, just to bring it back down to our regular level, I just think that money can make or break, and not necessarily in terms of if there's enough or not enough, but just like I said, the trust issues. And if you have funds that I am unaware of, that's instant lack of trust coming in.
Right.
And so just making certain that there's access to, and if you make certain that there's access from both parties to whatever funds, then it doesn't matter who's paying a bill, because you understand we might have to pull from this account to pay a bill. We might have to pull from this account. I mean, it just doesn't.
It should be a collective to say, okay, powers get paid. Now, just because you ain't got your half, so to speak, I'm not going to let the power get cut off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I'm also not going to take out my notebook and write down.
Yeah. Well, you know.
You owe me
you short. I mean,
76.35 because of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that type of thinking.
Some people are in roommate mentalities, I think.
I think so too.
You know?
I think so too. And then I know for some women, there's the idea that has been passed down from women that you need to keep some on the side just in case.
Yeah.
And I really would love for people to really think in their life, their understanding. Think of a situation where that has been a saving grace for someone.
Right.
And they probably can't. So you're being told to do something, and it sounds like it makes wonderful sense because, you know, you just never know.
Yep.
But if that hasn't been experienced by anybody in your circle, then you need to examine why it's being said.
Okay, this is a good example I just thought of. All right, let's just say, for whatever you listen to Big Mama tell you, put some money to the side, okay, in case something happens. So in let's say 2010, y'all got married. and then the cost of a house, average price of a home. I know in this area, let's just say it was $200,000. Okay, 10 years go by, it's 2020. Well, yeah, let's look at today's price. 2013 going to 2024. The same house that we bought when we first got married was what, 84,000 in 2021, and now that same house is worth 215,000.
Right.
So you saving up for what? Because if y'all disperse, and guess what? The average townhome is costing you almost $200,000.
Well,
so where the heck is you gonna go?
Even
you preparing for?
let's bring it down. Cause you went way out.
I mean, that's just, but that's the reality. Because if people are talking about, well, it ain't gonna work out, so we're gonna split up. I'm just gonna go do my own thing.
Well,
Your
I think
own thing got to be realized. There's an inflation cost that goes.
Oh my God. So okay, when I hear people say that, I don't think it's necessarily money to go purchase, but just money, period. Because, and this is where I think some of it comes from. Some of it.
Okay.
On TV shows how the man will have property and her name is not on it, or he'll have accounts that she doesn't know about, and so when it's time to divorce, she has nothing. Yeah, she can't even get an Uber.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. It's you have money set aside so that you could at least leave the home, get a hotel room, and plan your next.
TV would have people thinking that it's just simple as that. Even if her name was on still, I just take her name off. You can't do that stuff in real life. You can't just go taking your spouse's name off these just like that. You believe
and
that?
Then community property states and things like that. Or maybe it's have the money set aside so you can get an attorney.
It's states where people live together, and if they don't, just live together, not even married, and if they've been together a certain amount of time, that woman is due
common
some stuff.
law.
No common law. So I mean,
well, okay, so
state.
Even the money set aside to see an attorney, maybe. So but my thing is, for one, if you are preparing to leave,
right?
Like even if it's a little, this is just in case. That's energy and effort put into not having a successful marriage, for one, and for two, I think that we've gotten to a point where we want to protect our feelings so much. You have to be open to being hurt, to fully experience being loved.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to be open to being hurt. You have to be open to being let down. And that's something that I'm just learning.
It's the fear of not wanting to feel that emotion, but those are the ups and downs.
Right.
Those emotions are the ups and downs. It's not, people often think about, and I think the majority of people think that cheating is the worst thing in a relationship. And to some degree it can be. But, people are not thinking about the other aspect of a relationship. Just a letdown is more painful. Like, if you were depending on me to do something, and let's just say you were stuck on the side of the road.
Right.
I'm on the way, and I never show up.
Right.
That's got to be, what I'm saying? I can't even depend on this joker, what I'm saying?
For me, the physical aspect of cheating is nothing compared to an emotional affair of sorts. Yeah. Because physical, like that's neither here nor there. It's the emotional connection. So, but the flip side of that is, if I am so afraid that I am constantly on you or questioning or whatever, that fear of quote unquote protecting myself keeps me from fully embracing. It keeps me from fully being open to accepting the good part. And so the thing that I've come to realize is, if you were to step out on our marriage, one, that's your bad decision.
Right.
And two, because I am allowing myself to be fully vulnerable, I can say I did everything I could. And I would never want to be in a position to question whether or not I did my part.
Right.
Just think about the hell that you would go through thinking, well, if I didn't do that, maybe he would have done this. You know what I'm saying? If I hadn't have created that opening with that energy, letting money sit just in case, maybe I wouldn't have needed it. Now, that also, don't get me wrong, that comes with fully knowing or fully trying to get to know the person you're with. And seeing them for what they are. I know of someone who has gone through a divorce, and if that person had have had money set aside, I would have understood it because of the partner that person was with.
Right, yeah.
So, but that person also knew from the very beginning the type of person they were going into a relationship with. So, you have to be mindful of who you're with and understand, even why you're with them sometimes.
Well,
so,
that's the thing, too, that people don't, like, we've talked about this before, where people don't understand. It's easy to say you should do this and you should do that, but if we don't know how people got together, what brought two people together, whether if it's, when we had a baby, we had a pregnancy, and we decided that we just gonna get married and make this thing work. What is the thing that brought those two together, and is it something that they both had the personality to work through? Changes that would come.
How long did you know this person before?
Was there some type of personal effect, behavior that you saw that you were like, I don't know, but maybe we'll work through that, but then it grew over time. So you have this behavior that you can't put all this trust into someone to say they're going to be there and do these things. So then that creates a whole nother level of insecurity. I'll just throw this out there as an example. I knew a couple that this is going back. This is make me think about a couple in the neighborhood where the man in the relationship, he worked all the time. He provided. She didn't have to do anything. She didn't even have to work. She did work because she wanted to work. But she couldn't depend on him to do anything. Like all the stuff that was pertaining to the house, vehicles, she did all that. So,
I just saw a post.
There was an imbalance of, of a structure. Yeah, he provided. He did all these. She didn't have to want for nothing, but she couldn't, and she was stressed trying to figure out how this was going to get taken care of. The refrigerator broke, the car, all this stuff, so she had to maintain all that stuff.
And his thing probably was,
I provide,
I worked
that's it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I just saw a post earlier in the week that was like that, and people in the comments were like, nah, you're single. Because if you are taking care of that much and all he's doing is contributing this, X amount of money, and I don't want that type of relationship at all. I know that younger people today, they talk about, not wanting to be in a struggle love relationship and all this other stuff. And I think that the idea of companionship and relationship is just so different now.
Yeah, it is.
I remember this woman that I worked with, Miss Deborah, and when we were looking for our first house, and me being me, based on the amount that we had to spend, or that we were approved for, I was struggling to find something that fit my wants. And she said, you should be satisfied living in a cardboard box with your husband. You should know that even if you're in a cardboard box with him, you are with who you want to be, and wherever he is where you want to be. And that's my focus. It's not about because if we're living in the box, that's up to us. to make it comfortable. Doesn't matter what other people say. If they drive by and they say, fools living in a box. If we are happy and comfortable and our needs are met, that's all that matters.
Because at the end of the day, that's all. Ain't nobody else contributing to our life.
Right.
So
Right.
Ain't nobody contributing to your life.
Right.
So let the people say what they want to say.
Right.
At the end of the day, it depends on what the two of you come to terms and agree with at the end of the day.
Yep.
Because, Mama and them ain't finna offer. They offer their words of encouragement. They offer their lip service. But they ain't offering no dang check to go.
They're not offering it free anyway.
Exactly.
If it comes at a price.
Comes at a price. You're right.
That is the key. We talk about how people say communication is the key. Communication is part of it, but the key is F everybody else.
Exactly.
That's the key. Focus on your partner, F everybody else.
That's right. To hell with them.
Yep.
Word.
All right. That's it.
All right.
Thank y'all so much for joining us for this episode of the Beyond I Do podcast.
Until next time, please make sure to follow us on Facebook and IG. And until next time, we will holla at y'all.